Moving up levels is a mental game, and people are going to try to tell you that it's not. People are going to try to convince you that moving up levels is about changing your physical training, it's about improving your skill set, but I want to tell you that it's not at all that. I want to make it very clear that when you move up levels, what's really happening is that you have to make a mental adjustment. And what I mean by a mental adjustment is adapting to a new environment. Every time you go to a new team, there's a ton of nuance and details that change when you go to that new team. And so instead of thinking of it from the perspective of I just need to be better as a player, think about what do I need to actually do to prepare my mind? What mentality do I really need to have? What are the mental preparation techniques I need to do to get there? And so let's actually break this down. So if you're a player and you're moving up from, let's say, going from NCAA to professional hockey. I was just having a conversation with a player who just did this. And the first thing he said was that when you make the shift, what you have to be prepared for is that no one's going to hold your hand anymore. No one's going to make it easy for you. You don't have a billet that's going to take care of you. You don't have someone making your meals for you anymore. You don't have the hand holding that goes on at the previous level. And in a lot of cases, you don't have your parents around as you move up from, for example, going from minor to junior. When you go from junior into college, you have to deal with, well, now I'm living more or less on my own, but with teammates. And you also have like teachers and you have a class schedule that keeps you on track. But when you move from from college into pro, suddenly your schedule opens up. You have all this kind of freedom and you got to figure out what to do with it. And this also happens when players are in junior, when they're not in school. So a lot of my Canadian guys also know this, where if you're not doing university courses, you don't have a guided system, or even if you're doing online courses and you don't have a guided system as much, you learn very quick that time kind of just goes out the window a little bit. And you'll find that you're not super productive on a lot of days. You struggle with a lot of things. And so what I encourage everybody to do is step back and think about what is it that you need to mentally do to prepare for that jump. And if you have conversations, you're going to hear everybody say the same thing. It's you got to figure out your development. I remember this exact quote that one of the guys said, and I'll read it to you now. So when you make the jump from NCAA D1 to the AHL, you're on your own with a lot of your development. You might not expect it, but you're expected as a young man to figure out how to be a successful pro on and off the ice. And when he said this, I just thought to myself, like, man, it seems like you just go to pro and there's no challenges. Like you just like kind of figure it out. You get paid to play. This is the life. You got it. But it's not as easy as it seems. And I want everybody listening, I want you to really think about what that means for you. Like, what is it that's not there for you right now? What is it that's lacking? Prepare yourself for the challenges that are going to come when, for example, you move to a new place and you don't know what your new eating schedule is. You don't know your training schedule. You have to adapt to a whole bunch of different things within the team. You're making new friends. You're trying to handle, well, who am I friends with on the team? Who do I spend the most time with? Who are good influences? Who are not? How am I managing my body? How am I recovering? Am I sleeping well? Am I going out and socializing and staying up too late? Am I getting up at a good time? Am I optimizing how I see the sunrise and sunset to make sure my circadian rhythms are locked in? Is there more travel now, or how do I handle the different travel situations? If you go to a team that has, for example, you're going on the bus a lot or you're flying around a lot, it's a really big difference compared to playing at a lot of local teams where you just drive a few hours. An 8-hour bus ride, for example, is very difficult, and a lot of guys are not prepared for that challenge until they get there. You also have to deal with things like getting scratched. What happens when you're a bottom 6 guy and you used to be a top 3 guy all the time? You used to be a top centerman or a top winger or a top defenseman. What do? What if you used to be the number 1 goalie and now you have to miss most games? How are you going to prepare for that? What if you just have generally limited ice time? You're just not getting to play as much as you expected or as you're used to. What if you're playing with new players? What if your coach keeps changing the expectations, telling you got to play at a top line this year, you got to play on a lower line the next year? or next game is really what I mean, but it can go season to season. How you deal with these challenges is going to determine how successful you are in your hockey career. And yet, very few players are actually taught the mental tools to be able to handle this stuff. And what you really need to do is upgrade your mental software so that it can handle the challenges. So a computer has to have software in order to handle whatever tasks you give it. But yet very rarely do you see a player go and work with a mental coach and work with somebody to actually upgrade their mental software. And so if you think about it, stepping back and really looking at how your brain works, there are core skills when it comes to the psychology and the hockey IQ side of it that allow a player to actually have a good mental game. When a player has a good mentality or a mental game, or what people would say mindset, you have to step back and say, like, well, what does that actually mean? Well, here's what it means broken down into 18 applications that the best players have installed. So the first three are focus, presence, and awareness. So this is the ability to be able to take your focus, direct it at something, and then be able to actually be aware of what's going on around you. Then you have world beliefs, self-beliefs, and then behavioral beliefs, or really just behavioral instincts that have been wired. And these are the way that you see the world. And then you have emotions, thoughts, and actions. So what are the constant emotional patterns you have? What are the thought patterns that you consistently have in the self-talk? And then what are the actions you consistently take? What are your habitual action patterns that you take on a daily basis, that you take when you get to the rink? What are those core actions you take? Then you have what I call the archetype software, and the line and role and the ability to handle what your team systems are. And this is really where we're going into the hockey IQ side of it. It goes more from the psychology side of it, the psychological apps and applications, and then you have the more hockey IQ applications. Then you have player positioning, puck movement, and then you have player movement. And this is being able to understand what is going on in the ice, how to track things, how to pay attention. These are really important nuances. And then you have pattern recognition, anticipation, and then decision making. And all of those things come together to form a complete mental game. And when you move up levels, those things have to upgrade with you. And a lot of times, players don't have the mental software. They don't have the upgraded apps, or updated, really upgraded, that it holds them back. They get there and everybody else has that upgraded software. They're able to handle these difficult situations. They're able to think the game more effectively. They're able to see the ice more effectively. They get there and then you're like, man, I'm not ready for this. And you have to go through a quick learning curve. Now, if that learning curve happens quickly, then you can succeed at that level. But if it doesn't happen quick enough, then you can fail and end up getting sent down, or your career can end pretty quickly. The faster that learning curve occurs, the better. And that's why with all the programs I do, I'm always focused on teaching players all of these tools, because it gives a player a complete set of mental software that allows them to be successful in all situations. So that's what I want you to really understand and take from this podcast or YouTube video, depending on what you're watching this on or listening to this on. And so really what we want to pay attention to is when it comes to the entire mental game, most people are not taking a holistic approach. They're simply focusing on a little bit of confidence techniques like affirmations, that kind of common self-talk that you hear about. Maybe you're doing a little bit of meditation or maybe a bit of visualization, but people don't have a complete system that covers all these areas. And that's where the Next Level Academy is that tool. And I don't usually just pump the programs and try to get people to, buy the stuff. But let's be real. Obviously I have a business, and I would imagine you guys know that. And if you didn't, well, I do. And what we do in the Next Level Academy, when I work one-on-one with players and in any other programs that we may not currently have, but will have by the time you listen to this, what you want to pay attention to is these things are designed to give you a complete mental game approach, but then also keep in mind how to approach the physical training, how to approach the skills training. So that stuff's also included in the programs so that you are taking a holistic approach. My philosophy is be complete as a player. You're trying to build a complete player so that you can maximize your hockey career. And anybody who's not trying to do that, well, stop listening to what I do. Stop listening to me. Because what I'm trying to do is help you maximize your hockey career. And that means maximizing your mind, your body, and your skills. And the primary place to start is with the mental game. Because, like I've said for this whole episode, it is all about your mental game being the foundation of any shift you make in your career. So to make a mental shift, You have to simply change the patterns and the habits that you have in all of these core 18 areas. There's also some other areas that we're going to be adding to this system, but fundamentally it comes down to these 18. And so if you have questions, please send me a message on Instagram. Let me know. I'm happy to have conversations and help you break this stuff down. If you didn't notice, I have a bit of a stuffy nose, so I tried to keep this episode a little quicker today. Fundamentally, for most people, and it could be for you, the missing link really comes down to you just don't quite have the mental software to handle the next level of difficulty. And so if you need help upgrading the mental software to do what you want to do at that level, to be ready to perform at your best, then again, shoot me a message, check out the Next Level Academy, book a discovery call. There'll be a bunch of buttons and stuff all around to be able to click that. And I will talk to you guys soon. I hope you have a great week and absolutely crush it.